regularly scheduled town council meeting for the town of Edenton. We will follow our agenda tonight with one exception. If you look at your agenda under our committee reports, the Utilities Committee is scheduled to deliver a report recommending approval of a bid, but our engineer consultant said that based on the large number of bids that we received, that he wanted to do a little more research before that bid is confirmed. So that will come back to you at a later date. But other than that, we'll follow it all the way through. So if you will, stand and join me in the pledge, after which Councilman Poole will offer an invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, we thank you for another privilege to come out and assemble as a board. We ask in your precious name that you will guide our hearts, guide our minds to do the business of the town, that we may grow and grow not only in prosperity but in love with each other. We thank you for all that you have done. And we thank you, Lord, that you will give us the wisdom and understanding to do all the unfinished work that we have to do. We know that everything works in your own time. And we thank you for each councilman, we thank you for the mayor, and we thank you for the town manager. Help us to be on one accord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes listed on your agenda, the 1, 2, 3 sets of minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any corrections or comments about those? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. All right. Anne Marie, I'm going to give you the privilege and pleasure of introducing our fellow on the job, and she in turn is going to acquaint us with the subject of her purpose for being with us. So, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, and it does give me great pleasure to welcome and introduce the new fellow who will be with us for 2 years. We're on week 2. We had a good first week, and we're working through a good second week, but the fellowship is through the University of North Carolina, the School of Government, Saoirse Scott, and she's a recent grad of UNC at Chapel Hill. She's hit the ground running. We had a terrific meeting today. We gave her an assignment last week, and she presented it to Elizabeth and Tammy and myself today, and I can tell you she fully grasped the scope of the project and has set out a work plan, and I think we're going to get a lot accomplished if the skills that she showed early on with this project will be utilized on other projects going down the road. So Saoirse has prepared kind of an overview, a PowerPoint to describe the program for you, and then to talk a little bit about the work that she'll be doing with you. So I'll get the computer set up, and Saoirse will go to the podium.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here, to tell you a little bit more about Lead for North Carolina and then the work that I'm going to be doing here in Edenton. So just to start off with, so Lead for North Carolina is a branch of Lead for America, which is a larger program that focuses on the rest of the United States, but Lead for North Carolina is just in North Carolina, of course. We're partnered with the UNC School of Government, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, the North Carolina League of Municipalities, and the North Carolina City of County Management. So we have a lot of good partnerships here to start off with. So our mission is really to strengthen institutions, to transform local communities, and then to create public service leaders from young people, or to give people the opportunity to become involved in public service and local government, and to really show them the value of those things. So there's a real need within our young graduating community, so myself included, who are interested in doing public service work or working in local government. There's really no process to get them there, no set way to get them involved, and really to give them the things they need from a normal job. So watching all of my friends senior year go through corporate processes of interviews and applications and then getting a job, there was really nothing set up like that for local government or for public service in general, and so it's really a difficult field to get into, even though there is a large population of people that really want to get into that. And so the need isn't just for, so there really is a need with our graduates. Is this? My clicker isn't working, but. That's on off. I'm not sure. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, so sorry, let me try and get back to. All right, so there's a real need within our young graduates, but there's also a real need within our state. So in North Carolina, I'm just going to hit you with a couple quick statistics here. So like it says on this slide, 70% of the country's non-metro counties are losing their populations, or their populations are declining. And only half of the state's growth since 2010 has occurred in just 2 counties, so that's Wake and Mecklenburg. And other than that, we're seeing a large movement of rural communities to urban communities, and so we're seeing a real decline of both young people staying in local communities, but also working in government or returning to those local communities after they've graduated college. So that's a real issue that our state is facing right now. And then in our local governments, this is also extremely impactful. Right now, 70% of our state's staff working in local governments are eligible to retire. And so not only does that have just a very concentrated age that is working in and leading local government and policies, but it also has, there isn't a large workforce to immediately replace them or to train under them to become accustomed to government and then be able to take the lead after they do retire. And then deeper into that, only 7% of local government leaders are people of color, and only 25% are women. And so that's very not representative of our state as a whole. Okay, so this is really the most important slide about Lead for North Carolina. And this is really going over how we are trying to combat these issues that we're seeing in North Carolina. And so really the most important part of how we're going to do this is we're trying to involve young people in public service. We're trying to encourage them to follow careers in public service or in local government. And we're doing that by first reminding them of the value and importance of small towns and communities, and then encouraging them to uplift their communities and really reminding them that to be successful, you don't have to move away from a small community. You don't have to go to New York or LA or a large city. You can be successful in the community that you grow up in or in a community that really needs your help. And so it's two-pronged here, where it's something to support young people and give them this avenue for careers in public service and local government, but it's also really to help uplift those communities that need uplifting and that need young people and just engaged people working in them. So that's really the goal of Lead for North Carolina. And then, yeah, so that's just a little bit more on our goals. And then it's also, so we really want to encourage people to get involved in MPA programs. So at the, and to, follow higher education that will help them in public service. So this quickly, I am one of 16 fellows that's been placed across North Carolina. So the ones that are really nearby us, or by Edenton, we have a fellow in Elizabeth City, we have a fellow in Washington, we have a fellow in Wilson. But as you can see, it really extends all over the state. And a lot of those communities are Tier 1 communities that really do need the help of, of young people. So to get started off with this, so one of, pictured in this picture is, right to my right in that picture is Mayor Walter Eckerd of Charlotte, North Carolina. And then directly to his right, we have Scott Southern, and he's a program officer for the State Employees Credit Union. And the State Employees Credit Union recently donated, in the spring, they donated $500,000 to the Lead for North Carolina program. Our abbreviation is LFNC, so if I say LFNC, that's what I'm referring to. So they were really, really instrumental in supporting our program and getting it to where it is today. And then this was, there are two fellows right next to me as well. This was at our reception at the Governor's Mansion in Raleigh at the end of our training. And so this was another picture we took at the end of our training, and I wanted to go into our training a little bit more here. So because of our partnership with the UNC School of Government, over the summer, all of the fellows, so all 16 of us, we went through basically a 25-day crash course of what's usually about a semester's worth of information in the School of Government's MPA program. And so it was really focused on local governments and state government and county government. And we were learning about, the connections between all of those. But we focused on anything. We had Excel training sessions. We had case studies, case studies involving Airbnb, food trucks. And then we learned a lot about budgeting, zoning, things, really a broad overview. And so again, this was at the end of our training, and you can see Anne-Marie and I right there. This was the first day we'd all met our city managers that we were going to be working with, so it's very exciting. And then this was kicked off by a week-long training session that we had in Washington, D.C. with the larger Lead for America program, and that was at Georgetown University. And that was a really, really cool training session as well. And so this is another picture of Anne-Marie and I right after we were going through some of my work plans. I always look really worried in pictures, I think. But I wasn't as worried as I look, I promise. And so again, this is a picture of all of us at the end of our training. We had a reception at the Governor's Mansion with our city managers to meet and some of our funders so we could meet them. And that brings me to a little bit about me. So I grew up in a farm in Franklin, North Carolina. That's at the very other end of our state, in Macon County. I just graduated in May 2019 with a double major in political science and Hispanic linguistics, and then a minor in public policy. During school, I did a number of little jobs always, but I worked for Teachers to Teachers Global. That's a STEM education nonprofit. And I was their outreach coordinator, so I handled all of our recruitment and doing things for that nonprofit. And then, just for fun, I sang in an a cappella group for 3 years in college, and I was also their treasurer and concert manager for all those 3 years. And so in Edenton, I have a couple of long-term projects and then special projects that I'm going to be working on. The long-term projects, so I'm sure y'all are aware of the Mosley Street redevelopment program and the North Oakham Street redevelopment program. So I'm going to be working a lot with Elizabeth to help with those programs. And then we're also going to be doing a comprehensive housing code review. So I'm going to be reviewing a lot of our housing code and seeing where we could make little tweaks there, recommendations, things like that. What we had just met this morning about was a plan that we're developing to make Edenton completely ADA compliant. So that will be something we're trying to get finished within the next couple of months. And then I'm also going to be working to update our historic commission guidelines, and along with that, really create a good public information strategy so that we can let residents in Edenton know about any updates for our historic commission guidelines, any updates in our housing code, anything that we're doing, really so that there's more knowledge around things like that with our residents. And then I'm also doing special day-to-day projects. So one of them is I'm working to put a memorial in our Providence burial ground, And I'm also working on, well, I just finished this today, an effigy replacement. We had a little effigy mishap at at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Where I'm helping to revise the emergency management plan, and then I'll be doing some assistance with the Edenton Tree Committee, which I'm very excited about. And then really the last one on here, which is really important, is to become an active member of the Edenton community. Again, that really circles back around to LFNC's goals for us and for young people in general. And then, so I'm really excited for that one. And that brings me to the end of this presentation. Again, I just wanted to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about the program and the work I'm doing here. And I want to introduce Anne Marie, who wants to talk a little bit more about the UNC School of Government, LFNC, and their direct partnership with the town.
Can you turn on one light? Thank you, Saoirse. I just wanted to remind the council and then share with the
Is it too dark?
community.
All right.
The funding. So Saoirse mentioned the funding partners, but the town is also a funding partner. The program, the external funders are providing a $38,000 contribution, and then the town is paying, contributing $10,000. And then the training we went through at Chapel Hill included how to fill out reimbursement so we get reimbursed. But I think it's a testament to the town that the council, that they have embraced this project, that they were willing to help fund it, and we're, as you can see, looking forward to great things from the program. The UNC professors, they will be in touch with Saoirse pretty regularly, making sure that she is doing meaningful work. We'll be required to do some evaluations. Some of the UNC team will come and actually visit Edenton, and they'll probably want to talk with some of you. So they're going to hold our feet to the fire and make sure that we're being good, responsible employers, and that we're nurturing and helping to grow and following the mission of the program. I don't think the town has ever had the opportunity for a fellow like this, but as Saoirse was speaking, you know, I know she was telling you all of the things that you've been advocating for. You know, how do we grow our population? How do we attract more young people? How do we plan for recruiting to fill key positions down the road? So I believe that this program is in harmony with the work and the vision that you all have set, and I really am grateful that the School of Government and the partners looked to Edenton and selected us to be a part of the program, and I appreciate all of you supporting it. And all of the department heads are already, their wheels are turning of special projects that they can seek assistance from Kirsha as well. So, Mayor, we're happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
I don't know about questions, but my comment initially would be, I think this is one of the biggest efforts to fill a void, vacuum, whatever you want to call it, that exists statewide in North Carolina. We don't spend a lot of time teaching civics and local government in our school systems anymore. And so I think that has helped create part of the shortage of qualified people who are committed to and want to be involved with municipal government. I think it's a wonderful thing. We're very fortunate to have you here to be our fellow, and we look forward to the fine work that I'm sure you're going to do. That's a very ambitious schedule you have there, but it all reaches into areas where we know we need help. And so with that being said, again, welcome. We're delighted to have you. And finally, one more time, I am so thankful that the North Carolina School of Government and the other stakeholders in this program recognize the need that needs to be addressed and has started a program with you and your 15 other fellows, and we wish you the very best. Anybody else have any comments?
Will you keep up with your other fellows throughout this program while you're here? You keep up with them?
Yes,
Good.
yes, so we're all in contact, and then we're actually going to have monthly kind of get-togethers with some School of Government staff over a Zoom or Skype kind of setting, so, yeah.
I gotta ask, did you choose Edenton, or was your name drawn out of the hat? Luck of the draw, as they say.
I mean, I did get very lucky coming here, but I would have gone anywhere in North Carolina. I really just wanted to be a part of this program, and I was lucky enough that y'all got on board.
That's a good question. You know, how did they match us? It wasn't luck. I mean, part of it I'm sure was luck, but the staff, after they were pretty much halfway through the training, they started looking at the strengths and the assets, the experiences that the individual fellows had, and they recommended we speak with Kirsha. Elizabeth City's fellow was recommended to interview or do a Skype interview with Elizabeth City. So really I would say the professors kind of made matches for us.
Well, I have to agree with the mayor. The business I'm in, we had a intern for the last year. Well, actually, she was supposed to be there for a year, and she started in early May of 18, and she announced today that she would be leaving. But she was actually an intern from the Association of County Commissioners. It's not really a fellow program, but it is an internship that they pay for a year, and we have certainly enjoyed having her as well as I know we'll enjoy having you.
Seriously, I too, like Steve and the mayor, would like to welcome you to Edenton. We're certainly glad to have you here, and you have got some very high expectations for what you've shown us up there, and I think it was great that we were able to get you and have this. What better way do we have to improve on some of our missions that we've got than to have you as our leader on that? Thank you very much and welcome here.
And I would love to see you keep a list of what we can do better. You know, because I mean, you're a fresh mind, and you don't have to give it to us until the end. You know?
You can mail it to us.
And also, I did some interviews in Chapel Hill. I went to Chapel Hill. I have a son and a daughter that my son's still there. And, you know, I always sort of kid the Morehead Kane people about being a vacuum cleaner, and they just vacuum up all the smartest people and they put them out in Chicago or somewhere else. And, you know, how do we get local people that grow up here to come back and be a part of the community? And I think that's one of the hardest things we have to do as the leadership of this town is figure out a way to recruit the next generation. So I think you probably have a better perception of that than we do. So I would just really like for you to keep your eyes out on that. And then my last thing is, what did you do at St. Paul's today? You said you did that was the other thing. I didn't quite understand what you were doing.
Well, that's a long story. We've been dealing with buzzards or vultures.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And effigy, we got rid of them on the town water tower, and we were delighted, but they went to St. Paul's. And they were on private property, and we helped them get effigies from USDA. And to make a long story short, a visitor from out of town was walking through the churchyard, and they saw the effigy of a buzzard hanging from the magnolia in the church, and they thought it was really creepy, almost sacrilegious. So they called the police, and the police officer came, and he just thought this was terrible, and he took it upon himself to cut it down and dispose of it.
Oh, good.
And
$600.
$600.
however, Saoirse's work, we apologized. You know, the officer, he really thought he was doing the right thing. And we offered to pay to buy a replacement, but so Saoirse was working on that, and the USDA said, we're not going to charge the church for another one, and they offered to send a fresh one. So thank you, Saoirse.
Well, it has kept them away.
Yeah.
It has.
It works.
It works.
Yeah.
Well, there's a grave in there of Mrs. Warren. Somebody about, I don't know, 20 years ago stole her head. Really? So maybe you can find Miss Warren's head too.
I think we need to move on.
Start telling
Too much information.
Okay, thanks again. All right, next we'll have a progress report of a project that's near and dear to all of our hearts and of great concern as well, and we're fast approaching the point where we have nice things to report back on our drinking water, so I will ask Mr. Gooden to come up and tell us what's going on.
Well, thank you, Council, Mayor, and Marie. I did want to give another status update. I know that we recently had one of these about 2 months ago, and was really excited. We recently had a progress update meeting with the contractor, with the engineering company, and I think that we are leaps and bounds ahead of where we were less than 2 months ago. And we felt that it was a good opportunity to really shed some light on that, make sure that the council as well as the citizens were well informed kind of what has changed in the last 60 days. Just to kind of recap the project, you will see some slides that are very similar to what we had before, just in case anyone missed it, or just to kind of rehash where we were and where we are now. But if you remember, we received a notice of award for construction February 5th. The construction contract was executed March 11th. We received we issued the notice to proceed March 15th. And since that time, we've had one council update on the 24th of June, as well as 3 monthly progress meetings. There is a little bit of gap there between the notice to proceed and the first progress meeting. Most of that time was built in for the materials from the contractor to get on site. I know that we had discussed that on the 24th of June, that materials were starting to make their way to the plant site, and that's why there's a little bit of lag there, because most of that was just shipping and lead time on what was needed for both locations. As far as the update goes for the construction progress, from our most recent meeting on Tuesday and some follow-up the past 2 weeks with the contractor, all the concrete has been poured at the Beaver Hill site. We have received all vessels, and they are actually in place, and the high service pumps that will feed those vessels at Beaver Hill, as well as we have received the vessels for the Freemason water treatment plant. Right now we are, Envirotech is working on finalizing all the piping for the vessels and the high service pumps. When we met this past Tuesday, we were at least 75% complete. Most of what remains will be more of our electronic devices, flow meters, inline analyzers, etc. So we're just beyond that now since last Tuesday. So a week ago we were at 75%, and they have made great progress this past week. So you say, well, what does that mean? Well, what that means is that remaining 25% is really going to kind of turn the ship, get us over the hump. The remaining items that we have will really be our chlorine analyzers, as well as actually installing the media. So we are very close to cleaning and disinfecting, or at least making an attempt to do that. So we are process-wise in a good spot. We've also been able to have the epoxy tank liner installed. That was complete for our raw water tank at the Beaver Hill site. We have completed all the aerator piping, as well as made sure that all the connections actually from the raw water tank and the aerator are connected to the Beaver Hill site. We've completed all the piping for the high service pumps that will feed raw water into our pressure vessels. And the past 2 weeks, the electrical contractors have mobilized and actually began installing the electrical fixtures. And that doesn't just mean the lighting, that it means the conduit, the wiring, the brackets, the mounting. So when we say fixtures, we don't mean your typical household type fixtures. We mean anything that's fixed to the property. Also, as far as the town and the engineering firm, we're working on finalizing the last few submittals for our SCADA system. And one of the things that we will have in the very near future will be a follow-up meeting with the vendors that we've showed interest in, as far as having some interaction with their user interface. How will the operators be able to control and run the system remotely and on site? How does that work? And we want to see what type of creature comforts are built in there for the operators. If we look forward for our projected timeline, this is the same as what we discussed on June 24th. We still are targeting to begin production, i.e. potable drinking water leaving the Beaver Hill site on or about October 15th of this year. Once we get to that point, we will finalize the installation of the SCADA system on site for any type of, like we mentioned earlier, remote control or on-site control. That is not going to limit this process from happening. I would say that that is something that's necessary for us to process raw water, but it's not something that's going to limit us from producing raw water. And then in January 10th, 2020, we'll be at that same substantial completion as where we are now at our Freemason facility. Well, again, recap from what we saw before. A picture's worth 1,000 words. We could read off as many progress reports, as much text as we could fit on the screen. But photos, really do show you what's going on. These are photos that we reviewed back in June, where very little had been done to the exterior of the structure. As far as windows, we were still in the demolition phase. We were really beginning the foundation of what we needed to fix. These photos show improvements that have been made in the past 60 days, if you noticed, on all your exterior entrance doors as well as exterior windows and your larger exterior roll-up doors. Most of the structural improvements have been made. The exterior has been dried in with the existing structure. And if you remember from the last discussion, we discussed the expansion with the electrical control room. That has been dried in, and we are waiting for the trusses. That's really the last thing before we start with the roof and the exterior brick. One key thing here to mention, you say, well, how can you be working on electrical when you have an electrical room that isn't completely closed in yet? So we're working backwards. We're starting in the plant and working our way towards the electrical room. I do want to give a big thanks to the electric department. The town has already made efforts to provide tie-in to our utilities. We do have the transformer on site, as well as we have received all the media for both plants. So they are on site. As soon as we get the piping complete, we'll be ready to start adding that stuff in. So as you can see, it's quite a dramatic change from where we were 60 days ago till now. 60 days ago, this was the interior of Beaver Hill Water Plant. We had removed the majority of the concrete. Most of the forms hadn't been set. Most of the demo work was complete, but really no improvements have been made at that time. If you look at what we have now, this is actually from today. You can see our ion exchange tanks. We also have both of our softener vessels. The majority of the piping is in, and our high service pumps for our raw water. So this is a tremendous milestone for the town for this one location. What's very interesting about this, if you look, there's a great number of these red valves that really have these visual aids open and closed. There's automated control as well as manual control. But really what's there is really built for the operators to be able to quickly look at something and know green or red, open or close. How is the system running? And a fun tidbit of information on this, we actually purchased for this process improvement for both sites more valves than this manufacturer has ever sold to one location. So the company out of Greenville and the sales rep was so curious to see just how all this was going to come together, and we actually did have a site visit a couple of weeks ago where he actually saw what the town was doing, and it cleared up the mud. So here is an interior panoramic photo, kind of looking from the back corner that's closest to the wood line to really show you really just how much is in there. And excuse the mess, it's still in construction. Most of the JLGs that you see are from the electrical contractors that are getting the lighting and everything installed. But to my left, you can see both softener vessels kind of in the middle of the screen. You have both your ion exchange vessels, and then here to our right is our high service pumps that will actually feed the system. Does anybody have any
A
questions?
lot done in 6 weeks. Amazing.
Yes. We are thrilled. We're very happy with the progress. Once the material was on site, it was mind-boggling, the speed and the pace that these craftsmen are able to put these things together. And what really benefits us is the supervisor and the foreman on site are operators. So they have a really good idea of what's real world, what is going to make the most sense for a certified operator. And so we've seen some things that he's informed us of, and we've been on site, and I've been pleasantly surprised to have someone that was a former operator that now runs this type of construction company to be on site. So we're very pleased, and he gets it, and so that just is worth its weight in gold.
Corey, as you know, everybody is concerned about the quality of drinking water at this point in time, and we've seen a lot of it and a lot about it. And on the news last night, there was some small town, and I don't remember where it was. It's unimportant, really. But they were having a major problem with lead in their water, and the community was raising holy you-know-what over it. And I would like for you, if you would, to just assure the listening public that we don't have that problem in our water. We've been cited for some
Yeah.
And but the drinking water is safe.
Yes, the drinking water is safe.
I would like for us to assure the citizens that is true.
Yeah, that's correct. The drinking water is safe. Any of the state regulated chemical components or items of concern are well below any limits that may be set upon by the state, which, in hierarchy is overshadowed by the EPA, Clean Water Drinking Act. And Edenton's in a really good spot. And I think that this is a fix for the item that we've had the most concern with over the past few years.
You certainly made a lot of headway the last 6 weeks, that's for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think
You're welcome.
when we started this process, you told us how long will this system last?
Between the two, the engineering specs are roughly 20 to 25 years, but by having duplicate system, we expect close to double that.
Okay.
Yeah, so by balancing out how we process water between two plants. Now, if we want to run one independently by itself without the other, of course, that window shortens, but
And I also want to say, I've had several people call me that said that they had a problem, they called you, you immediately responded, you got there, you were able to figure out what was wrong, and the whole experience was very enjoyable. So I just want to thank you for that. I mean, you're doing a great job, and we appreciate all the good things you're doing for the town.
thank you.
Corey, I have a question for you. In keeping with our primary goal going forward, which is to grow the size of this population, are there any capacity issues relative to a system like this? Is this system to supply the current population run at 70% or 50% or 80%, or is that not a factor?
The design capacity for both locations will meet the current needs of the town. That was one of the things that we looked into when we considered our Phase 2 and Phase 3 long-term goals, where not only capacity but for growth. And so what we have for Phase 1 will meet our current needs.
Good. Because, I mean, just with our industrial expansion here in the last 4 or 5 years, and we have had little or no residential growth. And it wasn't too long ago that we had, this council approved 3 permits for housing developments that would have increased the population 20–25%. So I was just curious if we should be so fortunate as to attract that kind of development interest in the future that this system would.
Well, when we
Would
talk
come
about
with.
the expansion that we have at Beaver Hill, the addition that was added to the rear of the property, some of the legwork for future expansion at that site, whether that be storage capacity or process capacity, and also for a lab to be there on site where we can do a lot of our own water testing. A lot of that legwork has been considered in this first phase. So down the road, we don't run into unforeseen issues with, why didn't you consider if we wanted an additional train at this water plant or additional storage capacity. Luckily, we're working with the same engineering firm for kind of our long-term goals, so they have an idea of what was needed up front to kind of minimize the effect of growth within the town.
Okay.
Mayor, if I can, just to elaborate, we know our Phase 2 project is the construction of a groundwater storage tank that will provide redundancy and additional storage. And also that includes doing some rehab to our well sites. Been talking to the county manager because the county is looking, what are they going to do to deal with their issues. And as a matter of fact, just late today, I was invited to attend a meeting with the county manager and some state officials to talk about possible regional issues, a regional solution, long term. Would the town be interested in studying, possibly, participating in a future upgrade that the county may do? So we're keenly aware of, looking long term, and I'm grateful that the county reached out to us. I think that's something that the state, you remember, the General Assembly has adopted some legislation really encouraging smaller rural water systems to look regionally, and so we're gonna do that.
Mayor, if I could follow up on what she just said, I'm glad to hear that because I think, I've been preaching regionalism for a long time, especially when it comes to water. And the main reason is, we say we don't want to do certain things like reverse osmosis or whatever, and they've been doing it at the beach for years and years, and it works. And everybody says, well, it's so expensive. Well, I know you've heard the complaint, and I have too, from a mutual friend of ours. It's not that we aren't already paying for it. For those of us that keep replacing water heaters quite often, we're already paying for it. I'm tickled to death that there might be something down the road, not only for a regional system, but for the usage that all of us might be able to work together on. Corey, I do want to tell you thank you much for keeping this rolling. I'm sure Anne Marie is tired of sending that letter, so I'm sure she'll be glad when all this is done. We send a water bill today and they get a letter tomorrow, and no one's happy about it, and no one's more distraught about it than we are. So thank you for keeping this on
But these
schedule.
letters will continue even once you're finished. Is this correct?
Yeah.
For a few months
For a
anyway?
few months,
Few
because
months,
the
yeah.
way the running average is calculated by the state rules. But we will word them so that the customer knows that what's in the faucet, what's
Okay.
coming out of the faucet
Good.
is in compliance.
Okay, thank you, Corey.
Thank
for
you,
your
Corey.
report. Moving now to our committee reports for this evening. As I mentioned earlier, the Utilities Committee will not bring forward a report, so that leaves us with our Public Works Committee chaired by Councilman Stallings, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, and we only have one item on our agenda tonight, and it is recommended that council approve in concept the land lease for bicycle rental business and direct our town attorney to prepare a lease agreement as presented.
Absolutely.
I will put that in form of a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the lease agreement for the bicycle rental business. Further questions or comment?
Good move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. All right, very
That's
good.
all we have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We now arrived at new business, so Anne Marie, would you review these two items for us, please?
I will. Mayor, about a week and a half ago, North Carolina Department of Transportation asked us to convene a meeting. Corey attended that meeting with me, and the county manager, as well as Cord Palmer, the emergency management coordinator. And DOT reviewed the process by which, if there were to be a hurricane where a lot of trees came down, there needs to be an agreement in place where the town and/or the county could request DOT to release some of the state streets that they're responsible for clearing, and we would in turn have our debris removal contractor do that work. This agreement has to be in place in order for the town to be properly reimbursed by FEMA. And I think after Hurricane Florence, DOT and FEMA upgraded or totally redid their agreement. The last time you all executed an agreement, and it's still valid, was in 2009, but FEMA has some additional information they want. So in order to get the ball rolling, DOT has asked the council to formally request a memorandum of agreement, and then they will process that. And the reason we did this, some of you will remember with Hurricane Isabel, DOT, their primary responsibility is pushing and clearing on the major highways, the big thoroughfares. And we will have the ability to have a contractor to get in here and push and clear on town streets, but we don't want to be clearing subdivisions and then West Queen Street or Coke Avenue or Dr. Martin Luther King, the main entrances into town, not be cleared. So it really is it's a smart move, it's good planning, and we would ask that you go ahead and authorize us to request DOT to begin processing the agreement.
Okay, having heard that backdrop and recommendation, Chair would entertain a motion to do so.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to proceed with the debris removal request agreement. Further questions or comments?
Comment.
Yes.
One thing that we learned was with DOT was that they don't automatically come behind and pick it all up either. So this agreement will also help with that if whomever's in charge at the time, be it the governor or whomever the Secretary of Transportation is at the time, approves that. So it's not an automatic that they just will come and pick it all up, even off of 17 or 32. It's got to be cleared by the governor or Secretary of Transportation.
Okay. Any further comments? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no? All right, we'll proceed with the agreement. Item B, please, ma'am.
Mayor, thanks to the work from the police department, Chief King and Rosa Bunch, they wrote a successful grant application that was recently approved and funded by the Chowan Hospital Foundation to purchase automated external defibrillators. The amount of the grant is $3,350. And Chief, remind me, how many defibrillators will that buy, and where are they going to be deployed?
Two, we're gonna put one at the station on the wall, and we'll just try to rotate it, we'll keep one in a car in the field.
Okay, great. So in order to accept the grant, we need the council to approve the grant, and then Virginia will prepare a budget amendment so the defibrillators can be purchased.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Chair would entertain a motion to proceed with the paperwork
So moved.
necessary to initiate the
So
grant.
moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further questions or comments?
That's fantastic.
All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed, no? Very good. We've now arrived at items considered timely and important. Council members, anybody have anything you want to share with your colleagues this evening?
Just one thing, I have a question for Anne Marie.
Mhm.
Anne Marie, regarding road resurfacing and street repairs, I know the banks don't require that preliminary engineering report and then environmental assessment. Would this, if we go that route, will this move up the start date of road resurfacing? I know we're looking,
We are working with the engineers to get our bids now.
Okay.
And so just as soon as we get the bids, then we'll proceed with our application to the LGC.
okay.
So, yeah.
So we're looking late fall?
We're hoping late fall to get
Okay.
approval from LGC, and if the weather will permit.
Yeah, I
You know, if we have a warm fall,
We're okay.
November maybe, be able to pave,
Gotcha.
but, yeah.
All
It all
right.
depend on the bids.
I would like to say something. Maybe it's me, but I think everybody that live here knows about it. Something should be done about it. The intersection there at Virginia Road and Broad Creek, where the stoplight is, if you're coming from the north end of Broad Street and you stop there to the stoplight, the car on the right is a little bit ahead of the car on the left. The reason is the tractor trailers can come around there and drive, okay? From this side, clear to the driveway going to Walgreens, you'll find on the right side, coming this way, scattered lines, but they're gone. They're washed out.
That's true.
And when people come along both ways, if they're not turning right, they come right past the stoplight and cut right in on the left. Now, it's not illegal because the lines are broken. But in all curves in my driving, there's a solid line that you cannot change the lane. I think something needs to be changed. And this doesn't cost a lot of money, just get out there and do some painting. That's one thing. But the other thing is, we can do better as a town in fixing our streets. I saw public works groups patching holes. They put asphalt in it, then took a shovel and cut it down. In my opinion, they might as well not put anything in it because the truck come by there and pull it right out. Most towns got rollers, got small equipment for the public works to use for packing and fixing these holes. We got too many streets with potholes, and we can't fix them all at one time, but we can make them better than they are. I haven't been on a street yet that wasn't bad. Some is worse than others. So you got enough men, but you need the right equipment. I don't think shovels should be used to patch holes.
So Mayor, maybe at the next committee meeting, Corey can do a presentation and review with the council the ways, because there are different ways to fill a pothole, and we employ different equipment, and we've been experimenting with some new material. But I'll ask Corey to do a presentation for you the end of this month at your committee meeting on our street repair work.
Very good. To your point about the lines, I had a citizen, Bill Norville, up at his butcher shop. He asked me at least a dozen times, why can't we get more permanent line identification in those two traffic lanes heading south from Broad Street at the intersection you just referenced. And it looked like somebody went out there with a paintbrush and put down some yellow stripes that was soon worn off. I agree with you. Thanks for bringing that up again.
And Mayor, we'll reach out to DOT traffic engineer. I'm trying to remember the last time they
You've done
did,
it several times.
they did restripe it because somebody
Wasn't long ago.
got paint on their brand-new vehicle.
Yeah.
But we'll work with DOT. You're right, they did, the last time they did it, and they did the little hash marks. I thought,
Well,
ooh, that's not
The
what,
simplest thing is, the town could do that, from the stoplight right around the curb, especially Walgreens property. Take a solid line there, so people, a lot of people put up signs and no change in lane, because of the curb. But as long as you got them marked like it is, even if you remark it like it is, it's still illegal, because you ain't supposed to change lanes in the
we'll talk to DOT. We can't do those markings because it's not our street, but we'll certainly sit down and meet with them and ask them to improve it, because you're right, it is a safety concern.
Okay, anybody else have anything?
Mayor, I'd like to commend you and Anne Marie for your talking to Food Line about doing something to that shopping center out there where they're holding leased and holding hostage that building. And the whole shopping center is becoming a blighted area now. And you and Anne Marie have been talking with the people that own that shopping center about releasing that lease, or it's 5 years is up at this point. So I would like to commend both of y'all for doing that and hope you can have some success with it.
Well, Anne Marie has identified some people we can talk with, and we'll follow through with that as far as we can go and have some sort of answer back from Food Line people, because the developer's hamstrung. He can't do anything, the shopping center owner. So anyway, we'll do what we can. Anybody else?
Mayor, I want to pull one of your old rats out of the barn, if you don't mind. Anne Marie, what's the latest and the greatest on the boat that we've talked about several times? Have y'all heard anything about, I mean, you know, we often talk about being environmentally friendly, and that cannot be environmentally friendly. I mean, it is.
Is this one by the marina?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will reach out to the owner of the marina and talk with him. The last couple of times, he's told me that the boat owner was working on repairs and getting it out of there, so I'll reach out to him again.
Well, I come by there at least once a day, and I'm down there on the weekends a lot, in and out boating, and I've never seen anybody on it. I mean, if they're making the repairs, they're doing it early in the morning.
Very early.
Yeah, very early. I mean, I think all of us pass by there quite a bit, and I never hear anybody say anything about it. One other quick thing, speaking of streets, I just want to make sure, since we mentioned streets, Dr. Martin Luther King Street from Granville to the cemetery, that is in our next batch, correct?
That's state maintained, and we have been working, pressuring, asking to make sure that that is included in the state's next round of overlays for Edenton. And Jerry Jennings, the division engineer, is trying to make that happen.
Because it's rough there. It's very rough.
It's worse than rough.
Yeah.
And if this board will allow me, I'll be more than glad to talk to the secretary about how that, I had a call the other night from a family member that just recently had a funeral. And he told me, he said, I just want to tell you, I was really disappointed knowing that my mother was rattling in that coffin going down that street. That's exactly how he put it to me. And that street has been like that way too long for us to keep waiting for Jerry or whomever. If y'all give me the go ahead, I'm gonna take care of that street. So I'm gonna do my darn best to take care of it. That's all I got, man. Thank you.
Mayor, just one final thing on streets. One final thing on streets. The speed cushion, are we going to go that route or are we not? I think we're talking about something around
Yeah,
Oakham.
I don't know.
Okay.
Corey?
Corey, any word on that?
Yeah.
Decide not to,
We
or-
plan to do the installation of the speed cushion the same week that the utility line
Okay.
messed up, and we shifted the crew and the equipment over there to help with some of that as far as the immediate response. And it's just delayed us. We still are working with where we would like to put that. As an update on that, we did reach out with DOT to see about recommendations for what's the best way to notify the public of those, because they're going to be something new in the area, and what we have got to do is try to get the right signs in place to let people know there's a speed cushion ahead. Really kind of give the citizens an update, hey, something's new here, proceed with caution.
Which is the right thing to do.
All right, we done? Okay. The reason the boat hadn't sunk yet is sitting on the bottom.
Just sitting.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that.
That's correct.
It's just going to rot away.
Yeah. Oh, boy. All right,
It's already.
ladies and gentlemen, it's time for anyone in the audience tonight who would like to address the town council to do so. We ask that you come to the podium and identify yourself, and we'll be happy to hear from you. Floor is open.
Good evening again. I think I saw you just a short few weeks ago. I wanted to personally extend an invitation to a very important meeting that will take place on August the 24th, 2019, at the Culinary Arts Building over at COA. And this is a comprehensive meeting about the algal blooms in the Chowan area. I think you will find that the speakers and the folks that are here are very knowledgeable. They're very well intended, and I think their mission to be able to work collaboratively with the Albemarle area is well said and well stated in just their presence being here. So the meeting itself is actually from 8:30 to 11 a.m., and then there's a working group meeting from 11 till 12. And I do believe that all of you got an invitation, an email invitation to that, and I would encourage you to RSVP as soon as possible so that Ms. Gloria Putnam knows that people are coming from this area, and we can make arrangements for that. So we're looking forward to it. There's a lot of really good information that's going to be shared, two research projects in particular, and then some general information from DEQ as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me, and be glad to try to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you for that ongoing work. That reminds me of one other thing. COA is in the latter stages of selecting a new president, and there are a series of visitations that are going to be taking place. I don't have the schedule here with me tonight, but it can be found somewhere in the community. But I think it would be wise and helpful for those of you who are involved with anything that may relate back to COA's presence in Chowan County, that this would be a good time to go out and show the support for the local campus. So I'll just leave you with that thought. Sorry I don't have those dates. Okay. All right, anyone else in the audience like to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. And we stand adjourned. Thank you very much for your presence here tonight and your participation. See you in late August.